The Fighter Pilot and Me. Ever wanted to know what it's like to fly a jet fighter plane? Well, now you can make your dream come true as you take a ride with Lieutenant John Turtle Raphael in his F-16 Fighting Falcon.
Good morning, sir. How you doing? My name is Lieutenant John C. Raphael, and we need you to accompany me in the pre-flight before we get ready to go fly.
After doing a pre-flight, your co-pilot straps in and takes you up. With a run-through on the instruments and some G warm-up maneuvers, Lieutenant Raphael lets you roll the jet yourself, and then takes you to the firing range to demonstrate the F-16's 20mm cannon.
Get your hand on the trigger, and fire. Good job. Make it move.
Turtle hears a warning.
We got a spike. Bandits hostile. Tighten up, he's firing us, tighten up.
It's a bogey on the attack. Now, you get to play a key role in the ensuing dogfight as you twist and turn, trying to get a lock on your enemy.
I got good tone. Fire 1, Fox 2.
With the script written by a real fighter pilot, The Fighter Pilot and Me is an unforgettable ride that you'll want to take over and over again.
My dad knows one of the pilots who's a Blue Angel, so when they came to town, I got to go and meet them. You wouldn't believe all they have to do to get ready to put on an air show. On Wednesday, the number 7 pilot flew in with his crew chief in the FA-18. They call their jet a Hornet, and they call this pilot number 7. He has lots of jobs.
What's going on, Ed? How much, sir?
One of the many things the number 7 pilot has to do before the rest of the team arrives is to check the aerial views and the maps to make sure the pilots know what they have to watch out for when they are making their low-level passes. When the Blue Angels are flying, he tells the people what they are doing. But on Wednesdays, he has lots of fun taking up newspaper and television people, so they will write and tell stories and get lots of people to come and watch.
A lot of media folks that I fly, it's a dream come true for them, so sure it's a good experience for me.
First, they give these press people a briefing so they don't do anything wrong while they're up in the jet.
I'm the number 7 crew chief here for the Blue Angels, and my job today is to give you a little brief and prepare you for your flight in the backseat of an F-18 Hornet. For your bragging rights today, this 8.0, this bottom number is going to signify the most G's you pull during your flight. The number right above it, this 1.0, that's going to fluctuate. So if you're straining and all that, and you think this must be 7+ G's, and it's like 2.5, you know, you're not going to be a G monster today. You're going to be interacting with the aircraft today. In fact, you'll be flying the aircraft today. But until myself or number 7 tell you to touch something in the airplane, just consider it off limits. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. We do not fly people a second time. So make the best of it. A little 45-minute yank and bank session. We got to get ready for the next media rider. One of the perks that they get for flying with this is the whole thing is recorded on tape.
Once the crew chief has the meteor rider strapped in the back of the number 7 jet, he puts the pilot's gold helmet up on the dash, and number 7 knows all is set to go. I think he enjoys taking his riders up and giving them an idea of what it's like to fly as a Blue Angel.
All right, I'm going to give him a hand here. Yeah, I'll let you think a little bit here. I'm going to give him a hand and come back and check on you and get this thing started. All right, enough talk. Let's do.
I wish that I could go for a ride, but they take only 3 people from the media, who will then do a story about what it was like. My mom probably wouldn't let me go anyway. The Hornet is such a cool-looking jet, and it can really go, almost twice as fast as the speed of sound. But they can't do that here, because the sonic boom would break a lot of windows. crew chief is telling the pilot to move his controls so that he can see everything is working correctly. Each signal is copied by the pilot. He almost looks like a conductor, doesn't he?
You know, I was telling Ed, when I was a boy, I grew up in the Boston area, and the Blue Angels used to come every year when I was 10, 11 years old.
Anscombe?
South Weymouth Naval Air Base.
South Weymouth, yeah.
And my dad and I would go every year, and God, he'd be so thrilled to see me doing this today.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I know all about the Blue Angels, believe me.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun flight.
Oh, yeah.
You'll enjoy it. Tower, Blue Angel 7, takeoff 1.
Blue Angel 7, Rochester Tower, runway 22, taxi into position and hold traffic back, taxiing on runway 22.
Push 7, toss and hold.
Coaster 96 traffic, F-18, taking position on runway 22.
How long have you been flying?
No, I've been flying for 10 years.
Blue Angel 7, runway 22, clear for takeoff.
Push 7, clear for takeoff. Switch it. Okay, we're clear for takeoff. And I'm running in 70-85%. You all set back there, Steve?
Ready to roll.
Okay, I'm selecting full afterburner. Off the brakes.
Oh, my God.
Here we go. Okay, check my engine instruments. RPM's good. ATT's good. Fuel flow's good. Announcer's good. Oil's good. And we're already past 100 miles per hour.
Wow.
There we are, 160. And we're off the deck. And I'm accelerating. Straight down the runway.
You want to see something really cool? You're not going to believe this.
You all set back there?
I'm ready. Let's let her rip.
Here we go. Ready. Hit it.
Oh, my God. Oh.
There we go.
God,
45 degrees nose up. Look left and right and enjoy the view.
Awesome.
Departure, Blue Angel 7 airborne. Yep, we're headed straight up. We're passing through 5,500 feet. We're climbing at 14,000 feet per minute.
Wow.
And we're going to come right.
What a view. What response, huh?
Oh, yeah. And this is where we need to use our imagination, Steve. What I want you to do is, as I go on this nice, easy, smooth right-hand turn,
This thing is so smooth.
I want you to look to your right. Look on that right wingtip out there where it's painted yellow.
I see it.
I want you to imagine that you've got Blue Angel 2, the right wingman out there, flying 18 inches, wingtip the
my.
canopy. On the left wing, you've got Blue Angel number 3, who's a left wingman. He's flying 18 inches, wingtip the canopy. Blue Angel number 4, who is our slot pilot, just a few feet down and aft, he completes the diamond formation. Okay?
Wow.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to simulate to you the diamond roll.
Okay.
And this is where the boss, the number 1 pilot, the
Right.
flight leader,
Right.
leads the formation, the diamond formation, through this very precise roll and maneuver. All 4 aircraft have to act as one as they roll 360 degrees over center point.
Wow.
And I'm going to do the calm and everything that the boss would do in this maneuver. He would say, we're in a left turn setting up for the diamond roll. All the wingmen would check in. He would say, rolling out. And when he says rolling out, he rolls out the formation.
Even the pull, rolling out, the diamond roll, little drive.
And then he says, up we go. And on the G and go, he starts to pull back on the stick.
Up we go. A little more pull.
And then he says, okay. And when he says okay, the K and OK is when he starts to roll the formation. So you see here, I'm pushing the stick to the left.
Right.
And we're doing a nice, easy roll, 360 degrees.
And you're all staying
over
within
center
18
point.
inches.
18 inches the whole time.
Wow.
Forces, even power.
Okay, we finished the roll,
That's awesome.
and he rolls out. Okay, that was a diamond roll, Steve.
Nicely done.
While number 7 is having fun flying the news people around, the crew chief has to measure and put tape marks down so that when the other jets come, they will know exactly where to park in a perfect line with each other.
This is the 6-foot mark, and when the crew chief has his hands down by his side, that lets the pilot know he has approximately 6 feet till he recovers. And the crew chief will go all the way up like this, and by the time his hands come up to the top and squeeze, he should be right here, and that should be 6 feet. This will make or break a 7 crew chief, because there's no hiding when 6 jets come in and they're all misaligned. Can't hide that. This is where they park, and then once we're done, we're gonna have to push them back with the tow tractors. Okay, we need 100 feet out from the nose landing gear in front of the jets in order for them to taxi out 2 by 2 and then go ahead and follow the procession out to the runway.
What a ride he must have had, the lucky duck.
Yeah, sometimes when we go to airshow sites, they don't have an actual runway, or they don't have the proper distance that the FAA requires us to do our airshow safely, away from the crowd. So to establish an artificial flight line, what you see here, it's white plastic. It's about 40 feet wide and 5,000 feet long.
200 feet right here? Okay, this will be center point. We'll set up the truck right here.
When the solos specifically come in for their opposing maneuvers, they have to be a certain footage off of either side of the flight line. And they have to make their, we call them hits, which is when they cross right at center point. We never fly a perfect show, but we're always striving to. And if we're off 5, 10 feet or so, that's unacceptable. We're always looking for that perfect hit. And by having this exactly set, that gives us that constant every single weekend to make sure that we fly the type of show we want to.
During the actual demo, the 7 jet, which we flew in on, will be set up as a spare jet. And we'll keep that manned. If my partner's on the road, either myself or my partner will be in there. If they say that one of the jets goes down, we'll actually start it up and we'll do a hot crew swap, get that pilot back up in the air as soon as we can.
It took them 2 days to install an arresting gear cable, just like they use on aircraft carriers. They set up the cable to catch a Blue Angel jet if it gets in trouble. The number 7 pilot is going to take it backwards, and if his tail hook doesn't catch the cable, he will still have a lot of runway in front of him to give him time to stop.
Right now we have a Blue Angel, number 7, is going to take this barrier. He's going to hit the barrier at about 110 knots. The aircraft will stop at about 1,000 feet down the runway, safely. If you can think of an aircraft carrier and how the plane lands on the carrier and this tail hook grabs this big cable and stops, that is exactly what we have right now on air base units that are land. So that when the aircraft comes in and it is an emergency, it will stop the aircraft safely and save the pilot's life as well as the aircraft.
Yes, this is Lieutenant Hoskins with the Blue Angels. Could you check and see what time Blue Angel number 9, our Fat Albert's, going to be landing here?
Marines fly Fat Albert, which is a Hercules C-130 transport. It brings the ground crew and support equipment. Wait till you see all that comes out of this plane. My dad says the only thing they don't bring is the kitchen sink.
Okay. 7 jets up. It's all the way over on the other side of the airfield there with the hangar with the red doors. Show parking, we're standing on it right now. It's going to be left 90s with pushbacks. Bert's going to download here, so take what you need, and then it's going to go over to the fire station on the other side of the airfield for JATO parking.
Watch how these sailors and Marines work as a team. They all know what to do, and they do it pretty quickly, because they know the jets will be coming real soon, and they have to be ready to refuel them. It was pretty cool watching how they unloaded their plane. Soon after they got their gear out, the Blue Angels arrived. It was awesome. They roared around, getting used to the airport and where they would be putting on their air show. They have a way of letting everyone around know that they're here. My friend Mark, who flies the number 2 jet, calls it the sound of freedom. Karen is the crew coordinator. She's a first-class petty officer, and she makes sure that everybody is at the right place at the right time and that nothing unsafe is happening.
Basically, I coordinate everything on the flight line, safety purposes, along with all of our training, the training that goes into making the ground show happen as far as the enlisted group. Fine bunch of fellas, men and women. It takes a lot of working as far as the different personalities and the different groups of people that we have going on each show.
First, just the number 5 and number 6 jets land. The Blue Angels are always practicing, trying to make every move exactly with each other. See how they come in together? The number 5 and number 6 jets are what they call the solo jets. The solo jets work as a team. These 2 jets come screaming at each other, trying to pass each other at the center point, where they put that FedEx trailer. Remember number 7 called it a hit? It's totally awesome. Every time the pilots get out of their planes, they shake hands with each other and the crewmen and women who take care of their planes. The crew chiefs make sure that every part, and I mean every part, on their jet is working properly and is not broken. Unlike other pilots, the Blue Angel pilots never check their planes. They trust their crew chief, and if he or she says the plane is ready to fly, the pilot knows it's ready to fly. You have to be the best of the best to be part of the Blue Angels. After the jet is refueled, they have to hook it up to a tractor and push it back to its start tape mark, so when the pilot gets in to go flying again, he will have room to move out and turn onto the taxiway. After number 5 and number 6 are refueled and are ready to head back out, number 3 and number 4 come in to get refueled. These planes just came from the Blue Angels home base in Pensacola, Florida. Everything is done with exact precision, whether anybody is watching or not. Watch how those canopies come up at exactly the same time. As soon as the pilots get out, they talk to their crew about anything that might have gone wrong on their plane while flying up here to the airshow site. If there's something wrong, it's called a squawk. The crew immediately start working on the squawks, so their jet will be ready as soon as possible to go back up. The ground crew check every part of the plane. Sometimes the Blue Angels fly so close together that you could barely stick a Coke can between them. If something went wrong, it could be very dangerous. That's why everyone works so hard to make sure the planes are in perfect condition. There's number 7 bringing number 4 up to speed about what to look for in the air over the field. Number 5 and number 6 are going back up to set up their timing points. The smoke tells their crew chiefs they're ready to roll. They use a stopwatch to mark exactly where they have to be 30 seconds before they're supposed to meet at that center hit point. It sure looks like they're going to hit each other as they do a snap roll while they pass each other at center point. The last Blue Angels to land are number 1 and number 2. Number 1 is the squadron commander, and they call him the boss. Number 2 flies his right wing.
We're a team of 120 men and women. The pilots get a lot of the glory because we're the folks that are out there right in front of the American public flying the jets, but I could not fly the number 2 plane without every single man and woman doing their job, their part, in order to make that happen. So when we get out of those jets, I want to congratulate everybody and to thank them for all their hard work and support and congratulate them on a job well done.
See how he even gets out of his jet in such an exact way? They're always practicing, trying to be perfect in all that they do.
Whenever we first fly into town, we're pretty excited because we get to share Navy and Marine aviation with the American public. And a lot of folks aren't used to hearing what I call the sound of freedom, what some people call jet noise.
I got to be friends with the number 2 pilot. His name is Mark Dunlovey, and he was real nice to me. I got to get my picture taken with him in front of his jet, and he told me a lot about flying with the Blue Angels.
Thank you.
All right.
And this here's some of the old flight suits that the Blues used to wear way back in the beginning, and the different helmets that we used to wear. Starting with the early aircraft all the way to the most current aircraft, and then the current flight suit. Isn't that neat?
Yeah. The first thing in the morning, the crew people come out and uncover the jets and start checking all the different systems. They even start up the engines to make sure everything is working okay.
And the Blue Angels is a testimony to the professionalism of the men and women that make up this team, and I entrust my life to many folks as a Blue Angel, and some of the folks I really give my life to are the crew chiefs. Now, the crew chiefs pretty much own the aircraft. As I say, I rent the jet for about 45 minutes a day, and then I hand it right back over to the crew chief. So as Blue Angel pilots, we don't pre-flight, but again, it just shows what a wonderful professional outfit this is and how much trust we give to one another, because it really is all about teamwork and trust.
When we do heavy maintenance like this, before we launch anything, we'll do a tool inventory, because accountability of tools is very important. We want to make sure that when we do heavy maintenance, no tools are accidentally left in the aircraft or on the aircraft where it could damage the aircraft and hamper the flight.
It's called the APU. It's an auxiliary power plant for starting the engines. It has a hydraulic accumulator that stores pressure up, turns the motor on the APU. Kind of acts like the starter on your car.
When we first start the aircraft, you'll see many of our maintenance personnel out in front of the aircraft, and our crew chiefs will stand right in front of our specific planes, and they'll do what we call the wipeout. And they will take their hands and move them in certain ways to signal the pilot to move the stick the same way he's moving his hands. And in that way, we're able to exercise all the flight controls to make sure that the system's warmed up and everything's working the way it's supposed to work. And the crew chief is responsible for pre-flighting for me and making sure that everything is set up the exact same way every time I go flying. So no matter what city we happen to be flying in, there's some normalcy there that enables me to get in and fly hopefully what's the best demonstration I've flown as a Blue Angel.
They had to change a part on Mark's jet, so he's taking it up to test it out in flight by himself before he'll fly in formation. This airfield isn't used to military jets, so the Blue Angel crew people have to teach the firemen about how to get a pilot safely out of his plane without setting off the ejection seat if he has a crash or fire.
All right, we'll put 1 foot here, 1 foot here.
My name's Christopher Emmett. As you can tell from the accent, I was originally born in England. I work in the life support shop. My specific job is working on the environmental control systems of the aircraft and the ejection seats, which is basically the last means of escape for the pilots in case of an emergency situation.
He was just telling us how to take the pilot out quickly, turn off the power, and take him out of his harness.
And when I joined the Navy, of course, my big interest was the Blue Angels. And I basically worked towards my goal of working towards joining the Blue Angels, which I achieved last year, and now a fully fledged member of the team.
Not many people realize that the Blue Angels fly their demonstration 6 days a week. On Thursdays and Fridays, special groups of people are invited to come watch. Unfortunately, it rained, and they had to land early.
Well, it started out pretty nice, but then as the clouds rolled in, it obviously got a little harder to do. And we went from a high show to a low show to a flat roll tub show to a flat show to a, hey, we better land before the rain gets here.
And then the crew found out that Commander Silky was having engine problems with his number 4 jet.
Like I said, when I'm in the burner, it's surging bad.
Try it again.
She is telling the crewmen in the cockpit to keep increasing power to the engine. They call this spooling up. You can see the flames come out of their engines when they're in afterburner.
First time went into AB, about 2 seconds later, it finally caught. And it went into AB, then it lit out, went back in, it went out.
Right now the engine's not turning all the way up for ground mode.
As far as the fuel control, I don't think it's a fuel
I don't know, I mean, it's...
Well, to eliminate the engine, we can change the fuel control, man.
The afterburner was cutting in and out, which would make it impossible for number 4 to stay perfectly in formation. So they decided to replace the fuel pump to the left engine.
It's good, replace the EPU. The same vent power unit or replace main fuel trains.
The crewman is wearing the pilot's helmet so he can talk on the radio to the mechanics working on the engine. You can see where the grass got scorched, and they were running up the engine to full power to see if it was working okay. After they put a new fuel pump in the plane, it still didn't work right. So they sent Fat Albert all the way back to Pensacola to get another engine. They're towing the jet to the hangar so they can change out the engines without having to work in the rain. That's a jet engine dolly that they have to put under the engine so they can take it out of the plane. There comes Fat Albert back with the new engine.
Every single Blue Angel that comes to the team is a pretty experienced professional in the Navy and the Marine Corps. So all of us have at least about 10 years of experience in our respective fields or respective jobs. And those 120 other Blue Angels that make up the team are a very important part in everything that we do. And everybody has a specialty. For example, we have mechanics that work on the jets. Some of them, their specialty is to work on strictly the engines. And they're all working together as a team in order to keep those 6 jets flying in the air. And we only bring 7 aircraft with us on the road, so we only have 1 spare aircraft in case an airplane breaks.
The crew are checking to make sure everything is ready to put the new engine in. Once they have the engine perfectly lined up, they pump a jack handle, and the engine lifts right up and into place. Pretty cool, huh? They can change out an engine in a Blue Angel jet in about 2 hours, which is pretty amazing. Those sailors and Marines really know what they're doing.
just like cars, planes are machines, so they do break periodically. And those maintenance folks, those incredible professionals, are going to work their tails off 24 hours a day if they have to make sure that we're able to put those 6 jets in the air. So they're constantly working on the planes and polishing them, making sure they look beautiful for the American public, and also to make sure that they're working correctly for the pilots once we fly.
My name's Doug, and this is Tony, and we're here to tell you a little bit about what the Blue Angels do.
Friday commitments are by far one of the better parts of the job, because we'll actually visit with high schools and elementary schools and hospitals and talk with the kids. I had a couple of Blue Angels visit my school, and it left such a wonderful, lasting, positive impression on me that I really had a deep desire to do this job. And now to be on the other side of that, go to visit schools and talk with kids about the Navy and the Marine Corps is such a wonderful, wonderful gift and opportunity. And you get to get a sense of what kids are thinking and what they want to do with their lives. And it doesn't matter if they want to be pilots or Blue Angels or Navy folks or Marine folks, just to let them know that there's some really neat things out there to do after school in all walks of life, and that if they set their mind to it, they can achieve whatever it is that they're hoping to achieve. We really watch our health while we're on the team. We work out every day, especially when we're on the road.
Get it up there, V8.
And if you threw some weight on that thing, it probably would be help you out a little more.
Just like a solo pilot.
The Blue Angels have to work out almost every day to keep in top-notch physical condition. Pulling 7 or 8 Gs while doing their aerobatic maneuvers gets very tiring. They don't wear G-suits, so if they weren't in great shape, they could more easily pass out.
Since we're not wearing a G-suit, what we do to help counter the effects of gravity on our body is we work out quite a bit. We'll do anaerobic exercises or weightlifting, and that really helps build the muscles in different parts of your body. So just prior to pulling against the force of gravity, I'm able to constrict those muscles or tighten my stomach and my buttocks muscles and my thighs and my calves, so hopefully that blood won't pool down in my legs and my toes. And it's really physical. That's why when we come out of the jets, a lot of us are sweating pretty hard because it's such a physical part of our job is the actual flying. It's good for stress relief.
When you're doing a squat, you're using just about every muscle. You tense everything up, and that's what the G-straining maneuvers like. So anytime we're doing a hard turn, we're really heavy and working real hard in there. I think we're a lot like a family. As much time as we spend together, we have to boost each other up. When some of us are down, we really try to help each other out and keep us going.
You can actually hear it in the air if someone's struggling, and we'll try to cheer each other up a little bit with our voice calm as we acknowledge the maneuver, try to get the other guy back into it. And I think that helps out a lot, the team concept.
Listen, we're going to meet right over here on this road that's outside the parking garage. Okay. We'll form up.
You get to the actual gate, we just peel off and you just go right through the gate. They should have the gate open for you, and you just drive right through. Okay. Awesome.
Saturdays and Sundays we'll go to the air show with a police escort. And the reason for that is the traffic on show days is usually pretty high, especially in some of the larger cities that we visit. And since we want the pilots to be pretty fresh when they fly the demonstration, we don't want them at the show the entire day. So the police escort is necessary in order to get us there in time to have our brief and so we can put on the demonstration at the appropriate time.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Here at Rochester, Saturday, 28th August. Weather's 2,000 scattered, 25,000 scattered, 4 miles in haze. So on the surface, it's crowd left in front of the crowd, and at all altitudes, it's in front of the crowd left. The show line is the outboard edge of the white plastic on the taxiway, and the 500-foot line is the line between the sewer plant and the end of runway 7. Center point's a white FedEx trailer. We're going to take off runway 4 with the arresting gear de-rigged. Takeoff maneuver will be the diamond low transition and the soloist takeoff maneuvers.
We brief every single time we fly, and the brief and the debrief portions of the flight are a huge, very important part of the actual demonstration or the actual flying that we do. And we'll get into a briefing room, and the boss, that #1 pilot, will say everything he's going to say in the air, and all the pilots will close their eyes and visualize what that's going to look like. So for example, if the boss is going to do a loop, he'll actually go through every single voice call that he's going to make on the radios right there in the briefing room, and all of us will visualize what that loop is going to look like in our minds. So we've flown the entire demonstration or the entire flight before we actually go out there and do it, And that really helps considerably when we have to go do it for real.
Souls will begin for the opposing 4-point. And the diamond will begin from in front of the crowd with the low break cross.
What we do in there is we visualize the show so that when we get out there, we've got a basis in our mind. We're doing the same thing every day so that when we step into the airplanes, we are in sync and all thinking the same way so we can do a nice, safe show out there.
We have the first and second medics and the crew chiefs, and what we're doing is we are riding out. We're going to do one last once-over on the jets, looking for leaks or anything out of the ordinary. Make sure everything's ready for the pilots to come out. And the crew chiefs direct all the things we're looking for throughout the whole evolution of launching the jets.
In life, when you're a kid especially, a lot of kids don't know what they want to do when they get older, and that's okay. But you need to set some short-term goals to hopefully achieve a long-term goal that you're very passionate about or something that you really want to do. And if you're not sure what you want to do with your life, we'll still continue to set those short-term goals until you get it figured out. For me, I always knew that I wanted to be a pilot. So I had many short-term goals that I set, hopefully to achieve that long-term goal of flying off of aircraft carriers.
What? Have a good one. Go.
Karen is making sure all the crew are happy with their jets and that everything is set to go. I wonder if she has butterflies.
Yeah. Hey, Kraft, did you already check the APU? You good to go? All right, buddy, thanks.
The APU means Auxiliary Power Unit. They need that to start their jet engines.
4, arm, fire, safe. Okay, good to go.
The Blue Angels start their show with Fat Albert doing a JATO takeoff. JATO means Jet Assisted Takeoff. They strap 8 rocket bottles to their C-130 and then light them just as they start to go up. It's pretty cool.
For air show purposes, what we do is we run the engines up to full power. I'll release brakes whenever the comm cart gives us takeoff clearance. We'll accelerate down the runway. Whenever we hit 130 knots, I'll call for bottles, and our flight engineer will, by the push of a button, ignite those 8 bottles. You'll feel them ignite because it's equal to about an extra engine, and then at that time I'll rotate the aircraft to 45 degrees nose up, and who's ever sitting in the right seat will back me up now with airspeed calls. And whenever I hear 105 knots or the navigator calls 11 seconds, whichever one comes first, I'll go ahead and push airplane over in a level flight. And in that process, we've gained about 1,000 feet in probably maybe 5 to 7 seconds.
The Blue Angel maintenance crew and its equipment travel aboard the United States Marine Corps C-130 Hercules transport, affectionately known as Fat Albert. Today, Fat Albert will be demonstrating the jet assisted takeoff capability of the C-130, commonly referred to as JATO. 8 solid fuel rockets, 4 mount on each side of the aircraft, provide 8,000 pounds of thrust for takeoffs on short or unimproved runways.
When you finally achieve that goal, especially if it's something that you didn't get right away, and then to fly that first demonstration in front of the American public after practicing so long and so hard, and then to be able to put that out in front of the American public and fly a pretty decent demonstration is just so rewarding, and you feel incredibly proud of yourself and your accomplishments, and proud of all the hard work, because nothing worthwhile ever comes easy, and especially at that level where you're trying to put on the perfect air show, which you never achieve, but you always try to do. It just feels very, very rewarding to finally have reached that level and to have achieved something that you've been working so hard to achieve.
Now, direct your attention to the ramp before you. Observe the military manner with the 6 demonstration pods. Approach your aircraft and are saluted by their crew chiefs. Ladies and gentlemen, Flying Blue Angel number 1, the commanding officer and flight leader of the Blue Angels, from Homewood, Illinois, Commander Patrick Driscoll. Flying Blue Engine number 2, the right wingman, from Virginia Beach, Virginia, Lieutenant Commander Mark Dunleavy. Flying Blue Engine number 3, the left wingman, from Burtonsville, Maryland, Lieutenant Commander Kieran O'Connor. Flying Blue Engine number 4, the slot pilot, from Calabasas, California, Lieutenant Commander Dave Silkey. Flying Blue Engine number 5, the lead solo, from Falmouth, Massachusetts, Lieutenant Commander Doug Verissimo.
Once we get in the jets, actually even before that, as soon as we start that walk down and we form up, my mind is, I'm in my box, as I call it, or I'm starting to focus on the task at hand, which is to fly that perfect demonstration, that elusive perfect demonstration.
The maneuvers you will see demonstrated here this afternoon are coordinated tactical techniques developed by Navy and Marine pilots, both in peacetime training and actual combat.
Mark told me that he gets butterflies just like I do sometimes.
I get butterflies every single time I strap on that blue suit and strap on that blue jet. Butterflies are important. They keep you on top of your game, and they keep you very aware of your surroundings, and I think they really help in your reflexes and your reaction time. So butterflies are a normal part of life. Anytime that something exciting is about to happen, or you're about to give a speech, or do something that's extremely difficult to do, butterflies are just a part of it, and I think they help you perform at a level that you normally wouldn't be able to perform at and do extremely well at whatever you're trying to achieve.
All the ground crew work with the same kind of precision as the pilots, doing everything in unison with each other. I think I'd get butterflies too, knowing that 30,000 people were watching me. I think the ground crew look real sharp. Watch how they guide that last crewman into their ranks with their hands. As the planes taxi out, the ground crew salute the pilots who return their salute with their own special hand signals. Each pilot has his own unique salute.
Practice makes perfect. Doesn't matter what you do in life. As we all know, in order to do something very well, you need to practice quite a bit. And even though we do the same thing every day in the Blue Angels, it's so close to the flying, and the margin of error is so small that it really never gets boring. You never want to get complacent in this job, because if you do, then something bad could happen.
Watch the smoke disappear as they kick in their afterburners for maximum power. The flames burn up the smoke, which you'll see again when they go out of afterburner.
even though it looks like my head is pretty stationary, my eyes are moving pretty quickly and constantly scanning all my different checkpoints. And I know exactly where I am in relation to the boss's jet, or the number one pilot's jet, just based on the paint scheme on his aircraft. There are certain things that I'm trying to do with my aircraft to give me a sight picture or what the boss's jet looks like from my perspective, so I know exactly where I am in relation to his jet at any given time.
Roll with the right clear, your low transition, high performance climb, split S with a left clear into the long distance timing pattern. Banker, burners, ready, now. Ease and power, ease and more power. Stand by the boards, boards.
The boards are air brakes that pop out between their jet's twin tails. Here they're using them so they don't get going too fast on the downside of their loop.
A little more pull.
Toward the end of the season, there are a couple maneuvers where we're about a foot apart in the diamond. In fact, there's one maneuver called the Diamond 360 where 2s and 3s wingtips can get about a Coke can width apart. So we're pretty tight.
Low transition takeoff. Low transition takeoff.
I think you have to be an awesome pilot to be able to roll your plane with your landing gear still down just after you take off.
Let me know when you're leaving. Let me know when you can take them on. A little more pull.
Every single thing that we do in the Blue Jets is predicated or is started with a voice call on the radios. And the boss, or the number one pilot, he's not allowed to move any part of his aircraft without telling the rest of us.
Boss is set, 385, rolling in. Take it in. Smoke on.
There is nothing special about me or any of the other Blue Angels. Just the job that we get to do is pretty special. And I think sometimes you look at what an amazing thing it is to fly as close as we fly. But I'm just an average pilot, an average American that gets to do an amazing job. And the reason why we're as good as we are is because we practice, practice, practice.
Smoke off. Pitch is clear. Tender's clear. Set, rolling out. Take it in. Coming for the left. Going out towards Marquee 2 miles. A little pull.
Remember the boards? Watch them pop up just as the jets hit the deck to help them slow down.
The 6th demonstration pilot you will watch perform this afternoon. I'm one of the small part of the Blue Angel team. In blue uniform, standing before you, are members of the elite Blue Angel maintenance crew.
I hope that kids that watch this video don't look at this as something that can't be attained or that they can't do, because I guarantee you we've got jobs on this team that every kid in America could do if they set their mind to it. So I don't want people to look at this as, although it's special, I don't want them to look at it as something that's beyond their reach. After a show, you know, it could be the worst show that we've flown, and we're very, very critical of our performance. But once you open that canopy and you hear the public going crazy and applauding because they loved what they saw, that gives you a wonderful, wonderful feeling that you were able to provide some excitement and some pleasure to Americans. And that's a wonderful gift to be able to give to the American public. I'd say one of the lessons that I've learned in life is I didn't make the Naval Academy right away. I didn't make Top Gun my first or second time trying out for it, and I didn't make the Blue Angels my first time trying for it. So I learned from what I call setbacks, dusted myself off, picked myself up, and went for it again, and eventually I was fortunate enough to achieve those goals. So you don't always get what you want, and you don't always get it right away, but I think if it's something that you really have a burning desire to do, and if it's meant to be, then you'll eventually achieve that goal.
Commander Karen O'Connor. I'm going to number 2, the right wingman from Virginia Beach, Virginia, Lieutenant Commander Mark Dunleavy.
Mark told me that one of the hardest things for a Blue Angel to learn is to march together without making a mistake. Somehow, I think it's quite a bit harder to learn to fly a jet fighter, especially the way they do.
Ladies and gentlemen, representing the United States Navy Marine Corps, the Blue Angels, 1999.
After the show, the pilots come over to the crowd line to sign autographs. I have a really cool picture that Mark signed for me up on my bedroom wall.
Stay in school, make good grades.
Oh, neat, thanks. Huh?
You already got one.
There we go.
We got a bigger one.
I got the bigger version.
There you go.
Thanks, I appreciate you.
While the pilots are signing pictures, some of the crew are refueling the jets, and the rest of the crew begin packing up and loading Albert for the flight home.
Well, we were fortunate with the weather there clearing up and got the high show in. It's good to do a high show, although some challenging wind conditions out there.
Now, just as important as the brief is the debrief. When we come in for the debrief, that portion where we're going to evaluate how we flew in the air, we'll go around the room and we'll pick out our own mistakes, things that we didn't like for the flight. And then after the end of that, once we're done pointing out our mistakes, we'll say, "Glad to be here, boss." And what that does is it reminds all of us that we're one part of an incredible team, 120 men and women that make up the Blue Angels, but more importantly, we're part of the Navy and Marine Corps team. And we're just here representing the 300,000 Navy sailors and 170,000 Marines that are out there doing the real work, out there representing us as Americans in this incredible democracy all over the world. So that's why we say, "Glad to be your boss."
Alrighty, Wolfie.
Yes, sir, boss. Frustrating week not getting to practice and stuff, and so we don't get the opportunity to fly, and it showed. And I think that the mindset going in there was, hey, it's a show day. Let's hold on to things a little bit more than we probably should have. I.e., the line abreast loop was pretty rough on both sides. You know, the vertical break in, I probably should have just elected to no maneuver that, seeing where we were and stuff. So my head was, let's press and let's give them as much as we possibly can. But I'm just disappointed with my mindset out there, and we'll take a look at that and we'll get after it for tomorrow. It was good getting the flight out. Disappointing from the slot position, just not flying as good as I could possibly.
The narration, it went okay. We just need to work, me and I just need to work a little bit harder to get the timing down for some of the maneuvers with the difference being so far crowd right and the visibility today. So we'll work harder on that, and so we can nail that, boss.
I'm glad to be here. Gucci. Glad to be here, boss. All righty. Peter.
Glad to be here.
All righty. Wolfie.
Glad to be here, boss.
All righty. V8.
Glad to be here.
All righty. Banker.
Glad to be here, boss.
It's time to get out of here and go home. Come on, guys, let's go get on Bert.
My dad says we all can't be Blue Angels, but we all can be like the Blue Angels, working hard to be the best we can possibly be at whatever we choose to do. I'm not sure what I want to be when I grow up, but I know that I can be whatever I really want to be, even a Blue Angel.
But you can see right here, number 5, the lead solo, he's just below the sound barrier, and you can see shock waves starting to form on his different parts of his jet as the air gets compressed and he's about to go through the sound barrier. But we're not allowed to go through the sound barrier, so he's just nibbling on it. And this here is every single Blue Angel officer since 1946, and that's where when the team was first built by Butch Boris, the first boss of the Blues. And that all happened when Admiral Nimitz, who was the head Navy guy, he was the chief of naval operations during World War II and right after. And he wanted the Americans to remember the role that Navy and Marine aviation played in World War II. So he asked the Navy to come up with a flight demonstration team that went all over the country to share Navy and Marine aviation with the American public. And that's how the Blue Angels started.
Cool.
Isn't that wild? Yeah. Someday, you study hard, you can do it.